Welcome, this is Gary Parr, and you're listening to Fiber Talk. Actually, you're watching Fiber Talk today, a special video for the Sarah Braizear 1829 Queen of the May sampler. And even more special, I have with me Gene Lee from the Attic Needlework in Mesa, Arizona, and we have the model with us. And so we're going to take a few minutes here and we're going to explore all the little nuances and interesting features of Sarah Braizear. So, Gene, welcome. Thank you.
Welcome to the attic, Gary. Nice to have
Oh,
you again.
hey, it's always glad to come visit you. Yep. So we have Sarah Braizear, and this is a limited edition, available May 1st. And yes, this is also featuring Nicola Parkman's bookmark thread card. I love this thing, this little feature, where you get to have this extra card that shows all of the thread colors, and then on the other side, then she gives how to stitch an X and how to do a satin stitch. So, yeah, we can handle that. But anyway, it shows how to do it. I love this because you take that thing, and for me, I just hang it on my rack where my scroll frame is, and then I have it handy for me all the time. But just a real nice feature. So, Sarah Braizear is the sampler. 44 pages of sampler charts and British history, all about queens and kings, and oh, there's some fascinating little facts in there, little trivia that Nicola has put together. So the chart alone worth it. Just I was telling Gene when I got mine in the middle of the workday, I just stopped everything and put my feet up and enjoyed it for a while. So that's coming out May 1st, and then here, as you can see in the background, is the model that is at the Attic Needlework. Gene, how long?
I don't know. I haven't asked that question. Probably, I'm hoping till next January when Nicola comes and she will take it back with her.
Okay, so we'll put no pressure on her to come early.
No.
It stays here at the attic. So if you're in Mesa, Arizona, all the regulars, they're spoiled by now. But if you make the trip, then you got to come to the attic anyway. But then you get to see Sarah Braizear among the hundreds and hundreds of other samplers that are at the shop here. Now, let's just take, Gene, we're going to take a look. One of the things that stands out for me as I look at this sampler is the border. To me, the border, I've not, I mean, what I've not seen, like I have experience. This is really a neat border. Is this unique?
It's very unusual. I've never seen another border like it, and it's the first thing that caught my eye when I caught my first glimpse of this sampler.
And it just a pattern in the, do we have a name for this up and down thing? Is there a name? They all,
The
many of
satin
them.
stitch? Is that what you
No,
mean? No.
the pattern where we go
Oh, the vine?
up the hill and down the hill. Yeah, the vine. Okay.
Yeah, the undulating vine.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So undulate there. See, I knew there was a name. So we have this undulating vine, but then it's the two bands of satin stitch. With how many colors do we have here?
It looks to me to be four. I really love how these blend, these two shades of gold or ivory. They're so beautifully blended.
These two here.
Right here, yes. And
Yeah.
I heard Nicola talking about stitching this, and she suggested stitching the outside X's all around and then filling in the satin stitch, of course, last, because you don't want it to get any more wear than it needs to have while
Oh,
you're
so
stitching.
let me get right in close. So that is a cross stitch border on each side.
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, it is. So you stitch that first,
Yes.
and then fill the satin.
Right, and Nicola was talking about her incredible model stitcher, Jacqueline, who was able to get it to meet going all the way around. Now, I know that would never happen for me, because I just am not that diligent or something. But if it were me, I would stitch a part of the X's, and then I would stitch some of the undulating border and use that as my marker, because to count that many cross stitches would make me crazy, because I would know I would make a mistake. So I like to keep track of where I am by using the other elements in a sampler. And in this particular one, it would be this part of the inner border, to keep track of where I am, so that when I got down here, I needed to match it up. And if it doesn't match it, then I know I've made a mistake somewhere.
Yeah.
But
So basically carry the border all the way, all of the border as you go to give you your best chance of ending up square.
that's what I would do.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
would just be easy. I would not be able to do it accurately without having that checks and balances.
Yeah. Because that I think that's for especially samplers of this size. This thing is what 27 by 27 stitch size, something
Yes,
like that, or 20.
yes.
I forget what it is.
Yeah, it's
But
480 stitches by 400 and
yeah,
something.
we're gonna go with big.
Yes.
We'll go with big.
It's giant. And for a 13-year-old girl to complete this is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But then, yeah, that's one of the great things is when you get down to the final corner of a border, how far off are you?
Yes.
So use those tricks like that to help yourself so it does come out even. But this a border, I think that even if you are off by a stitch or two, fairly easy to adjust at the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So we have the border. I should give more of a view of the border here, just because it's so neat. And Nicola, in talking on a podcast, watch yourself, because Sarah Braizear was not consistent.
Right.
And so you got to watch yourself as you stitch along and make sure you're watching that chart, because there's instances, I'm trying to find one as I bring it up, where the vine actually touches the where is that? Nicholas said it was there.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I
maybe not.
haven't.
Oh, here it is, right here. Here it is, where it actually touches. You see right
Oh,
there,
yes, I see.
touches the border. So you got to watch yourself as you stitch it. And she said there were other places where it's just count everything.
I believe Nicola has very kindly given notations in the chart where to watch for
Okay,
that type of thing.
Yep.
So she has helped us along the way.
and we're grateful for that.
Yes, we are.
All right, so the border is the standout, but then you were telling me before we start recording that these oak trees are very unusual.
Yes, they are. They're only on a few samplers, and once Nicola published this on Facebook, several people wrote in and showed her examples of samplers that either they are stitching or have stitched that, or have in their collection that have this kind of an oak tree. But it's, again, very rare.
And then these are the parts I love, because as a former teacher, and of course we raised kids, we know what 8, 9, and 10-year-old kids are like, and you think, oh, this is such a beautiful thing, and where's the kid in it? And here's the kid right here, where the oak tree overlaps the
Yes.
bird, and it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Just whatever. I got to go play, so it
Right.
doesn't match up. Yet over here, it doesn't. There's a well, it does crash into it. Yeah,
Yes.
it's like, yeah, I'm a little girl
Yes.
at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I love that. And then of course the centerpiece. Now we're talking about the
Oh.
centerpiece.
That's magnificent.
This heart.
The bower and then the heart.
Yep.
It's really beautiful. The heart is seen on a number of samplers as well. And it always attracts me. I like heart and I like deer, and this has both. It has some little deer under the oak trees.
Oh, there he is.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It's hard to see everything that's actually in this sampler.
Isn't that true?
There are so many birds. And then I heard
Oh, and
Nicola,
look at what for the eyes. What
Yes.
she's done.
those are eyelet stitches. Aren't they beautiful?
Yeah, the only ones in the piece, aren't they?
Correct.
Yep. 2 eyelets. Yep.
And while you're there, you can see the over one verse, which isn't,
yes,
it's only 2 lines of it.
Yeah. So all the all the people who hate over one, it's just 2 lines. You'll live.
Yes.
And we should read what that is. Boast not. Is it? I always have trouble. That's an S. So
Yes.
boast not.
thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth.
Yes. Yes. And then and then we have the bower. And this is now you're recommending. What is the linen you're recommending?
I'm recommending Lakeside's Vintage Fawn.
Vintage fawn.
Yes. We had a piece of summer khaki in the shop when I learned that that was the model's fabric, and I always prefer for samplers hand-dyed linen. I just think mimics the antique look a little bit more. And so I took the piece of summer khaki that we had over to our lakeside table, and I found that this, as you can see, it's laying next to it. I think it's a really good match. But when you look at how that piece of summer khaki matches to the model, it's quite a different shade.
Yes, yes.
But that is something that happens in both hand-dyed linens as well as what we call standard linens.
So yeah, that's, so we'll get back to that later.
Okay.
But just wanted, so you're recommending, and the reason I bring that up is that fawn is a darker linen than what Jacqueline stitched on. And part of the benefit there is that areas like this bower then will stand out more.
Right,
And this urn,
right. Oh, I love that.
yes.
I would like to just stitch that. I love that.
Well, that was something that I had said to Nicola that I so liked about this piece, is that when you get it done, there are so many motifs in there that could be stitched as a separate single item. I
Absolutely,
mean, there's a ton of them in here.
absolutely.
Because you take this here,
Isn't that beautiful?
yeah,
I think those are tiny little satin stitches that form the flower petals. Yes, yes, they are. Beautiful,
okay.
beautiful.
See, that's, yeah, to me, that's the fun of it, is that when you're done with it, it doesn't end.
Right.
There's so much more you can do with it.
And it's interesting too, because while it looks like a very symmetrical sampler, there are slight differences from side to side. And actually, I like that. I prefer that myself. I get kind of bored if it's exactly mirror image, because it's like, I already stitched this. So I like little changes like this one offers.
Yeah. So that, in that bower, I was gonna get to, that again is X's on a border with a satin stitch. So then
Right.
we would use that same approach as with the border, stitch the X's and then fill with the satin.
Exactly.
And kind of a ribbon look there. She's got a little,
Isn't it lovely?
yeah,
Oh, every satin stitch part, the smaller ones, I'm not sure I would leave until the end, but these large, the bower and the border, I would not stitch until the end. And probably these flowers too. Any large satin stitch area.
yeah.
Is it-
I didn't note that. Yeah, these flowers are satin stitched. Yeah. So just save those to the end,
Right,
and then that eliminates any chance of snagging.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she's got satin stitch in that border, but yeah, down here at the bottom. Sorry.
And I love this arcaded area also, and the little basket.
Yes.
It almost looks to me like a manger. When I first saw it.
Well, you know, I didn't, when Nicola and I were talking about this, or Nicola and Christine and I were talking about this on the podcast, wasn't able to get it in, but you know, this bottom band, if I can call it a band, with the two trees flanking, I think for me, is my favorite part.
Yes,
It has, I love those trees, but the grass underneath, and these trees are,
they're beautiful.
yeah, and so that's stitched. Those aren't left blank. Those white spots or those lighter spots are stitched,
Right.
it looks like.
Right.
And I wondered about that. I was anxious to see the model, to see if those were stitched or just left blank. And so they're stitched, but those trees are just, and I just really like this bottom.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I particularly like this area. I would like to stitch that part too.
Just this around her name.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, always a question for me, especially on ones like this, you know, always sign your piece. How would you go about signing your name on this one? Would you fit it in somewhere or put it on the back?
In the margin.
You do
So-
it down in the margin.
Yeah, but so that some people put it so that you can see it, and then others put it in the margin that's under, that only someone who unframes it can see, and it will say something like, Nicola Parkman faithfully reproduced this sampler in
Yeah.
August 19, whatever, 2000.
2,408.
Yes, yes,
So you like to give a little more information than just your initials in a year. So that, but hide it so it doesn't detract from
yes.
because that's the problem I always have is I feel like if I'm going to put my name or a date on there, I'm going to detract from the design, and I don't want to do that. So you just make it so it gets hidden by the framer, but then,
Right. But then it's there for
Yeah.
forever, for eternity.
yeah, because I mean, that's essential.
Absolutely.
That if someone would keep it and down the road, they should know who did it and know it's a reproduction from an original too,
Absolutely.
I think, yeah. Now this here on either side of the bower, this is an interesting stack
It is, isn't it?
down here.
I'm not-
Beautifully,
It's beautiful.
yeah. Detailed and colored tower on each side.
And again, satin stitch in there.
Oh, that is? Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's what gives it so much sheen and so much beauty, especially in the silk threads. Oh
And,
my.
and then when you stitch this, then you would stitch that satin stitch, but not the bigger areas.
Right. That's the way I would do it.
Yeah. And then
Because
crown.
to come back and fill in all of the satin stitches at the end would be a little bit tedious for me.
Yeah, I think you can say that.
Look at the little satin stitch, I think it is, in the eye of the dog.
Can we get in? Oh, yeah, look at that. I'll be darned. I'll be darned. Little things like that all through this piece. I love the grass. The way she did the grass. Made an effort to make it look like grass.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was interesting, too. I heard Nicola's podcast with you, and I didn't have the piece the chart right in front of me. She was talking about the peacocks, and I thought, I don't remember any peacocks. So then I had to get the chart in front of me, and there are the peacocks.
Yes.
And I would have missed them, or I had missed them up until she mentioned
Right
them.
there. Yeah. Yep.
And
now
then she also referred to these as possibly phoenix birds.
Yeah, there's-
That really could be.
There's
Or,
two of them, but there's two of them. But you talk about not having symmetry. The one here on the right, looking away, and then this one on the left appears to be looking up, maybe,
yeah,
but not the same. Definitely not the same beast
no,
by any stretch.
no,
So you can't just go into auto mode and start stitching it.
right.
Some challenge there. Yep. Now see, when she talked about peacocks, I was thinking, it's interesting how we interpret, because I was thinking that she was referring to these birds.
Oh,
And so, but then when you showed those, that says peacock to me too. So I don't know.
well, I don't either.
Yeah.
But often I've seen peacocks with this kind of a motif for their tail.
Yeah, now see, and that's where, yeah, you've seen that approach before, so that says peacock. But then again, now, if we, sorry folks for moving this around so fast, that peacock, and then we go across the way to the one on the other side, completely different approach.
Different colors?
Yep. Which is fun.
Yes.
Yes. Yep. Now what is it here? Is Sarah, her name we stitch over 2.
Just the S
Just
is
the
over
S.
2.
Oh, everything else is over 1.
Yes, and all the capital letters are over 2, and then the rest of it is over 1.
Now what'd she do after?
I believe that's
Yeah,
right.
it looks like it. It looks like you're
Okay.
right. Yep. Yep. And then a big old blob of a thing. What'd she do there after 1829? You're not quite sure there.
It might be a period.
It's big.
Big period.
That's big. Yeah. Yep.
And somewhere in the description that fills the first 6 pages of the chart, she talks about mills, and she thinks it's a shortened form. Now I can't find exactly, but I was intrigued by that. But she does make a guess at what Sarah was intending with that,
Yeah, it was something to do with the school, was it? Or the teacher?
where she was born, I think. And I can't find it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
There is some tie-in with that Mills, because
Yes.
that's not her last name. Braizear is her last
Right.
name, yeah, so she threw that
Yes.
in. And then the other part, as we've just, people have, I'm sure noticed, all the little animals. And we talked about in the podcast about this,
oh my,
her
yes.
being in a wooded, what became a national
The
woods.
Royal Forest.
Royal Forest, yes. And all the little fun, like these butterflies are just
Yes.
so much fun.
All kinds of winged
What,
creatures.
yeah, what is that up there?
I think
bees?
bees maybe?
Yeah.
And they're everywhere. Everywhere. And there's some moths, and although sometimes I can't tell the difference between a moth and a butterfly.
Yep. Little birds sitting there.
Lots of birds.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, and I love birds.
But I think this what's going to be fun about stitching this is on those nights where you might have an hour.
Yes,
You can do a couple birds and a bee.
exactly.
And
Have a sense of completion.
right, right. Yep. And they're all over, but count. Count carefully
Yes.
to position them. Yeah. And then what are these? It looks like little crosses. What are these little things?
I
Do
think
you
that-
recognize those from somewhere else?
I don't know what they would be, but maybe insects, some kind of flying. I don't know.
Yeah.
A dragonfly?
Could be. Yeah. Yeah, we could speculate all day on this and
Right.
have fun with it in that way too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really, there's just so many things going on. And down here in this with the birds sitting on top, the one you like. Under her name, the trees flanking it, and then the birds sitting on top, and then birds on top of the tree.
And then two more, and bluebirds on
Yep.
top of the basket
Yep.
handle.
Yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
It's a big sampler.
Quite an accomplishment for a 13-year-old to complete.
That's the part that I just can't get over with these things. Is
I
these
know.
little girls, and you say, all right, they didn't have TV, they didn't have soccer, they didn't have whatever. That's still a lot of hours for a little girl to put attention to.
Absolutely. And Nicholas said it was stitched on very fine linen, and so they didn't have craft light products
Right.
to help them either.
Right. Yeah. Young eyes is what
Right,
they had.
right.
So let's as we get to the end here, let's look at, you've pulled all the threads for us.
Yes.
So this is the silk.
Yes. Now we're missing one blue, 1745. This is 1744 and 46. So it's somewhere between. It's a shade between these two. Otherwise, it's a full set.
And this is all laid on top of the
Vintage fawn.
vintage fawn, which is what you're recommending as the ground cloth for this, as the linen for this
Yes.
this sampler.
I particularly like how nice that looks on some of the lighter shades or the golds.
Well, and see, and you had educated me in that I was thinking I wanted to go with a lighter linen, and I don't want to do that
No.
because of this right here, and that's down here on this urn, right here. Yeah, there. Yeah, that's right there, and that will just disappear if I go with lighter.
Yes,
Won't see any of it.
yes. And so will some of these other motifs, the little flowers, beautiful
Oh, yeah,
flowers. You
there's-
don't want to lose them.
There, oh yeah, all those will all
Yes.
disappear. So I'm gonna have to redo my thinking.
Well, all of us have made that mistake. Have done a beautiful project on a linen that's too light, and so we kind of know what to look for.
So follow Jean's advice, and you'll be fine. So there's the silk of Ersois silks, and then we pulled for this then the DMC colors, because this is charted DMC and a silk, and so here's the DMC on the same fawn linen, and then we had pulled together so you could see when we talk about linen. Talk about that now. We've got the fawn, and then
Yes, here's the fawn, the vintage fawn, and here's the summer khaki that we had in stock, and this is also summer khaki. So you can see that there are different shades of the standard linens as well as there are for the hand-dyed. It's just a fact of life. And so that's what made us choose vintage fawn, because we were matching it to that. And I'm very happy with our choice, because I really like how well the lighter, beautiful, beautiful pastel colors in this sampler show up on this linen that's just a shade or two darker than the summer khaki.
right, and it works DMC or silk. They both stand out, as you can see here.
Yes.
They both stand out very well, but it's that light color that you gotta watch for as you're selecting your silk, to make sure that it stands out. That's here, and then those two right there. That's the one that's gonna blend in if you go too light, Gary.
Yes, yes.
So, okay,
And I just love the variety or the tones that you get in hand-dyed linen.
Yeah.
It, to me, more closely replicates what the antique might look like. Because the linen in antiques fades
yeah,
unevenly.
yeah. And I think adds a little life to it, a
Oh,
little
I
life
do.
to the background.
It's not so flat.
Yeah,
It's not so flat.
Yeah. so there we have it. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Gary.
Nice tour of the Sarah Braizear. Whoops, get the cord out of the way. Sarah Braizear model at the attic now through 2045.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Right, Nicola. 2045. Then she'll send it back. That's how it's going to work. So there we have it. All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary.